Hi, my name is Andrea Venet, and today I'm going to be talking about some tambourine technique, specifically involving the combination of shaking strokes and striking strokes with the opposite hand. I think this approach is especially useful for the growing amount of contemporary musical applications for tambourine, whether that be solos or etudes or chamber music or percussion ensemble. I'll play a little bit for you so you can see what we're going to be talking about, and then we will discuss how to work it out. The tambourine that I'm using here is a Black Swamp Sound Art Series tambourine with beryllium copper jingles. I really like it because they give you a nice crispy sound. I'm going to switch to an S3 Series tambourine which has aged brass, just to give you a sampling of the flavor profile of tambourines that I have in my house. There are three basic motions that we need to be familiar with. That is up, down, and strike. The up and down strokes are the shake strokes, and they work in tandem together as a pair. What goes up must come down, so really you can't use an up or a down stroke exclusively by itself. They have to work together. So I'll demonstrate that first. Here's the up and a down. And then we have our strike, which is our normal way of playing the tambourine usually. We want to hold the tambourine at a 45-degree angle so that the jingles rest on each other and utilize gravity so we get a nice clear articulate sound and it isn't too wet for these purposes, since we're trying to get really rhythmic figures here. If I hold it completely vertically or flat, the jingles want to rotate on their axis in the same manner that the tilt-a-whirl ride from the fair kind of moves. If you are familiar with the tilt-a-whirl, that is awesome. And if not, then I'm totally dating myself. But otherwise, it's a really fun ride, and you should check it out if you have a chance to go to the fair. But we're not looking for that motion for the jingles right now for our purposes. We want to hinge from the elbow and use our forearm for the stroke and stabilize our wrist and keep that pretty locked. This is so we get a clear articulation. If I'm letting my wrist and my elbow hinge at the same time, then I'm having two motions that are engaging the jingles, which can give me a wet sound or sort of a flam, as opposed to locking it. It's a little bit drier, and that's what we're going for. I first suggest really working on being really comfortable with the up and down shake strokes first before we add in the other hand into the mix. This requires the most coordination in this combination technique, and based on the tempo that you're playing at, the parameters sort of change on how much you're moving, so you really want to be able to calibrate yourself for different tempos and different speeds of rhythms. So I just start with simple eighth note exercises with the up and the down stroke, and then I compress the rhythmic space. So I'll start that here. The tempo parameters that I use are 100 beats a minute to 180, which work really well. Here's 100. You'll notice that I'm using quite a bit of vertical space, and the slower the tempo, the farther you're going to throw that tambourine and use that space. The faster things get, the less you're going to move. So I'll do that again at 140, and you'll just see how I'm minimizing that, moving my hand a little bit faster. And then one more time, we'll go all the way up to 180. Once I'm really comfortable doing that and working the up and down shake strokes at all the tempos, then I can add in my other hand and create a striking stroke. So I'm just going to tag that onto the end of the rhythm, so the sequence will be up, down, and then strike. We'll go back to 120. And that'll compress the rhythmic space. And then we'll do it faster one more time. Once we're comfortable combining the up and the down and the strike, then we'll reverse the order of operations and start the rhythmic grouping with a strike stroke and do the same exercises. faster. It's 180. It gets a little bit more fun when we can get faster and use all the 3 different combinations, or all the 3 different motions. You'll notice that with the playing hand, it stays really close to the tambourine and sort of shadows the motion, whether you're starting with this hand or not. That's really important so that obviously it's ready to play the rhythm, but also that everything stays nice and balanced, and we're, you don't need to be swinging too far away from the tambourine. So keeping them together is really, really essential and helpful. These 3-part shake and striking combinations work really well for triplets. It provides a natural agogic accent, which is an emphasis on the beginning of the 3-note grouping. And in a lot of the passages that involve triplets for tambourine, that is the kind of phrasing that we are going for. In addition, it also helps with fluidity because we're alternating between all 3 motions consecutively and not repeating a certain stroke type back to back. It just allows for it to be really smooth. I can adapt the 8th note exercises that I did before for triplets and even use the same tempo parameters that I used of 100 to 180. I just turn regular 8th notes into triplet 8th notes and go through the sequence again. So here's 120, and I'm just going to play the first 2 partials of the triplet up and down. Now compress the rhythmic space. Then I'll add in my striking hand after the rhythm, so it'll give me a complete triplet. So the sequence will be up, down, strike. And then I'll get rid of the daylight between the rhythms. Now it's going to get really fun. We're going to play back-to-back triplets. Once we're comfortable with that, then again, we'll reorder the combination and start with the striking hand and do the same thing again. So this is a 4/4 pattern with triplets. The sequence is strike, up, down. And then I'll get rid of the daylight and do all triplets. Let's do it once fast, just for fun. You'll find that various articulations can be achieved based on how you combine your shake strokes and the strokes with your hand. And the strokes with your hand can create 2 different basic articulations. One is open, where I'm striking the tambourine and coming back off, or dead strokes or dry strokes or secco strokes, where I'm going to be terminating the stroke onto the head. So based on what kind you're doing with your striking hand, that can greatly impact the overall sound of an entire grouping or entire rhythmic motive. If I start a grouping with an open strike, then I'm getting the head to resonate, and it is at the same time engaging the jingles, so it can give me a nice slurred sound. I can then add on a strike immediately after that rhythm that is a dead stroke, so then I can give it a nice dry finish to the grouping. There's a lot of different combinations that you can come up with based on the up and the down shake strokes and how you're playing the striking hand, and I think that's a fun task or a fun way to experiment on your own with tambourine. It's kind of like the Stone stick control book, where you have different sticking patterns. You know, a paradiddle has a nice flow and a nice unique groove all of its own, and it kind of gives you a certain phrasing if you want it that way. And I think with these different combinations, you can do the same thing on tambourine, which can be kind of fun. An orchestral excerpt that I like to use this technique on is España by Emmanuel Chabrier. He took a trip to Spain and was greatly influenced by the music and the dance of the country, and that inspired him writing the piece for orchestra. You'll also see tambourine show up in flamenco music, so I think this approach really embodies the character of where the music was coming from and how it originated, and it's also a fun way to play the excerpt. Happy tambourining.
Play the tambourine.